Hi there. Let's wait a moment or two for all of you to arrive. I hope you can see me and hear me, and please let me know in the chat if you would be so kind if you can see me and hear me, if everything is working as it should. Okay, and let's wait a moment or two for all of you to arrive before we begin. Yeah, it's very hot today in Poland. It's over 30 degrees. I hope the weather is nice where you are from also, but maybe you have some better condition. Oh, okay, great. I see that you can hear me and see me. That's great news. Okay, let's wait a few more moments before we begin so all of you can join. Okay, I believe we can start. So once again, hello and welcome to today's sessions about analyzing processes in Dynamics 365 Finance Supply Chain Management. Of course, also earlier versions like Dynamics AX and how to find optimization potential. I am Sylvia. I'm a product manager at XPlus with several years of experience also as a process analyst, as a business analyst. So I'd like to share some insight from my experience, from my colleagues' experience, and how to address those issues in relation to Dynamics 365. Oh, I saw the chat that you are coming here. So hi guys, and so let's begin. What's the agenda for today's session? First of all, I'd like to talk about analyzing processes, about best practices that there are when we're approaching analyzing processes in Dynamics, and also the challenges that you may face in the future, or you already faced. They are quite common, but I think it would be good to make you aware of those. Additionally, also I'd like to talk about enhancing process analysis using machine learning and process mining. And then I will show you our solution, our new tool, Executive Explorer, which is a great tool for process analysis and optimization. And this tool uses this machine learning process mining, which I would be mentioning earlier. And then lastly, there will be a Q&A session. So here's a request from me. If you have any questions throughout the session, please write them in the chat section as a comment. And during the Q&A part of the session, I will try to answer those questions. So there is a spot prepared for that. Additionally, also there will be some information about trial version. So please stay tuned. The link will appear in the chat soon during the presentation. And if you are interested, we will be able to sign up. Okay, so now let's begin. When we talk about analyzing processes in Dynamics 365, we first need to answer an important question. Why should we do it? Why is it important to analyze those processes? And well, the most obvious answer which comes to your mind is, of course, to save money, right? Especially now when we are facing a recession soon. Well, it seems like it won't be avoidable. So by analyzing processes, by finding potential for optimization of those processes, we can save quite large sums of money. So that's why it is important. Additionally, it is also important to eliminate risk or minimize those risks of making mistakes. Yes, some mistakes not only generate additional costs by making it necessary to fix those mistakes, but some of those mistakes may be irreversible and cost a company quite a lot of money. So by analyzing processes, by making them more optimal, by making them more, you could say, foolproof, you will be able to minimize or even eliminate those risks in total. Another reason why analysis is important is to enhance employee satisfaction. Quite often, when you are moving to Dynamics 365, the users are not really happy, right, with the new tool. There is something new for them, and because of that, they may find it to be not intuitive, difficult to use. So, to answer those complaints, to make their work better, and enhance their satisfaction, also analyzing and optimizing processes may be useful and important. And lastly, but not leastly, the reason to analyze processes is to adjust to the market or law or operational changes. Yeah, our environment changes constantly. Some new laws are introduced, some business changes are introduced, and because of that, very often processes also need to be adjusted so they meet those new requirements. And moving on, I'd like now to tell you about best practices when it comes to process analysis. If you take a look at the graph on the right side on this graphics, you can see here how the process analysis should look like. It is very important to note that it needs to be a process which never ends, because often happens in companies that there is a big project of process optimization. All company is working on that. They make those changes, and that's it for the few next years. No, nothing happens, nothing changes, analysis stops. And that's actually a mistake. So the best practice is actually to never stop analyzing, never stop improving and looking for improvements. And it works like this. First, of course, you analyze processes as they are. You find room for improvement and decide how to improve it. And then, of course, implement those improvements. Then you verify whether those improvements actually resulted as you wished them to, so they brought satisfactory results, and then you repeat. You may take another process or go back to this one and try to optimize it further. Additionally, some other good practices when it comes to process analysis are using varied samples of processes and comparing them. What I mean is, if we were to have a documentation, one single point of documentation, and try to find to analyze it and find optimization potential on those documentations, we may not have a full information, because there are users who may use the process differently, some more efficient than other, some completely different than the documentation shows. So by having samples of how actually they look like in real life, how users are using those processes, how they are doing them, and by comparing the different users, you actually get a true, clear information, a clear image of how processes look like. Additionally, you should also take into consideration dependencies between processes, because why some processes may be ineffective may not be a result of some difficult steps or long steps or something wrong with the process itself, but it may have to do with the long a period of waiting for other processes to start or end. So taking into account those dependencies is also very important here. Then, of course, we have, during the analysis, we have to look for what can be automated, what can be pre-filed, skipped. Generally, it's not like this that you have, a big problem which would solve big issue with the process that will solve all the problems that users have and bring great results. Generally, this is, there are a lot of small problems, small steps like repetitive work, some redundant work, which through small improvements can bring some great results. And the last one of this best practice I wanted to tell you about today is about comparing optimization costs with potential savings. This is very important. We should not only take into account what processes should be improved and how, but also if it is worth improving them at all. Because there may be some processes which are terrible, horrible, and you need to do a lot of work while performing them. But let's say that those processes occur very rarely, once a year, or even more rarely, and the optimization of which would cost a lot of money. So you need to take, into account the cost and the potential saving it would generate. And the return from the investment shouldn't be longer than 2 or 3 years, because if it would be longer, it would be very ineffective improvement, because processes change. They change, they evolve. So in a year or two, those processes should be changed again. So it's best to look for processes which bring savings very, very quickly, within a year or sooner. Okay, and when we've talked about best practices, now let's move to the biggest challenges that you may face when analyzing processes in Dynamics. So first of all, the greatest challenge is finding reliable and up-to-date data source. And the biggest problem is if you do not have any documentation. Well, then there's a big problem. But even if you have documentation, well, there may be several problems with it. First of all, it may be not up to date. Second of all, it may not reflect how really the processes look like. As I've said before, right? Different users might use different approaches, which may be very different from what documentation says. Documentation may be incomplete or not detailed enough. So finding a up-to-date and reliable data source which would reflect the truth is crucial, but is also very challenging. What's next? We have the challenge of measuring the real impact of the process. The problem often is, when we talk about optimization potential and the need to optimize processes, is that we have little or even no way of measuring it prepared. So generally we optimize those processes which come from users who speak louder, who complain the loudest, right? But in real life, those may be not those which need to be addressed first. So the challenge is to measure actually the real impact the process has on the whole organization, and whether it is really necessary to optimize it or optimize it with top priority. Another challenge is to find a way to analyze users, analyze system and equipment performance all together, because only the steps which user does is not enough, because they may work on old equipment which may be slow, which may impact their performance, and there may be nothing wrong with the process itself, but the user's equipment may be faulty. The same goes for the system. So in order to analyze processes, those three elements need to be taken into consideration, but it may be challenges to obtain this data. Next, we have another challenge of determining the most efficient optimization approach. Yeah, so we find a process which is faulty. We know that it needs to be optimized, but then how do we determine how to optimize it? Do we use developers or just educate users? Which approach would bring the greatest results? Of course, determining that is also quite challenging. And lastly, it's very important, often skipped, but something that shouldn't be skipped, is verifying process optimization results. So we've conducted all those analyses, we've designed some optimization, we've implemented optimization. Now we need to see whether the users actually are using this optimization and how it affected the process. So also this is very important and very big challenge to face. And moving on, now let's talk about enhancing the process analysis. And to do that, what we think the best approach is to use machine learning and process mining. Thanks to that approach, you will be able to to get more information, to the necessary data, which I've talked about during the best practices and challenges slides. Those data which was hard to obtain, but was necessary to obtain, and which I've spoken about then, those data would be easily collected thanks to process mining and machine learning. And what we've done, we've created a tool which is called Executive Explorer, and actually this tool applies this machine learning and process mining, additionally task mining, and it records all users' activities in Dynamics. So it was a bit like Google Analytics. So the users do not feel a thing, but all they do in the system is being recorded. Everything they click on, whether they're getting lost in the system, what values they type, everything, or task they perform, everything is being recorded. Then our algorithm finds common patterns and groups them into processes. So our algorithm looks for processes. There is no process from a template, because the real life may be very different from the template. That's why our tool finds the processes from all of those activities. And additionally, it looks also for automation potential within those processes and presents results of these analyses in a web application, which I will be showing you a bit later. And before we begin this presentation of the tool, I'd like to talk to you a bit about its greatest advantages. And first of all, of course, it presents processes as they are executed. So what I've said before, all those processes as they really are, not as we wish they were or as the documentation says. Additionally, it finds automation potential. It also offers data for comparative analysis between different users, subsidiaries, processes. So for example, if you have similar processes in different subsidiaries, you may check how they perform and what are the differences between them. So, if one company is more effective at a given process than other, you may be able, thanks to our tool, find the reasons why. Additionally, the same comparison may be done between users, processes, etc. Additionally, our Executive Explorer allows to check how those changes actually affected processes. So as I've told you, this need for verification, whether what we've done, what we've implemented, the improvement, whether it really works, it really brings the value we've expected. And it also collects additional information that might affect process performance. As I've mentioned before, this information about the users' workstation performance, about system performance. So those additional information, which may be very informative when we will be analyzing processes and reasons why they may be in some places ineffective. Well, additionally, of course, it supports tests in such a way that you can monitor whether the users are performing user acceptance tests or to perform, root cause analysis, because you can track every step users done in the system. Of course, anti-fraud procedures, you can check what was being done in the system for audit purposes. Additionally, you may use it to work out better resource allocation by seeing how much work is being done by users on given processes in given areas, and many more. So this tool is quite powerful and has a varied ways of applications. Okay, so in a moment I will begin the showcase and show you the tool itself. But before that, as I've told you before, at the beginning, there is a possibility to sign up for a free trial. The link will soon appear in the chat, so you can sign up. Okay, and I think now we can move to our session, our presentation. Okay, so what do I see here is a list of all those processes which were found by our algorithm, with such information as what is the number of executions. Of course, we can set areas which those cover. For now, they are not set, but you can, of course, set them if you have, different teams and so on. But moving on, number of executions, you can see here the number of users who use the process, some details regarding average number of steps and time it takes, the potential for automation. So this is some basic information. And if we dig into one of those processes, what we see are those KPIs. Yes, the information about number of executions, number of users, the potential for automation, and the cost. You can also, if you wish, you may add information about the costs of employees who use those processes. What is this cost? And then it will be calculated how expensive those processes within your organization are. And here is a graph which shows step by step here you follow just those arrows, right? So step by step you may follow those arrows and see how this process performs. This is actually a very simple process, which is very linear. But let me show you a different one for creating sales order. Here, let me expand this map, this graph. And what you see here is quite a lot, right? This is lots of arrows. Some are thinner, some are bolder. There is quite a lot lots goes on this on my screen right now, right? So what it means, what you see here, is that this process has lots of different variants. Different users use this process very differently. And those bold lines here or here, those show the most commonly used path, those steps which are most commonly used. And those thinner lines like here or here, those show you those, those variants of the process which are used less often. Why? Well, you may analyze it by using here this part and this section of this application and simply clicking on the different variants. Yeah, and by clicking, the graph changes, and you can see what are the differences there, what steps are different. And by using this, you may actually find a reference process and populate it within the whole organization so that everybody uses the most optimal one. Of course, there's also some statistics about this process, but I won't be boring you with this now. Additionally, you can also see, I'm just briefly going to show you this, is the steps which are involved in the process. Every step with every information which is being typed, you just click on a step, go to business context, and you see here every value which was typed, which was put during this execution of the process. Okay, these also have different ways of applications, but of application for test purposes or for audit. But this is not the topic of our session today, so I will not talk about it today. I believe that next time we can talk about it. Additionally, it's important here is this reference process. So if we believe that this user performed this process the best way there is, we can set it as a reference process. So as the best one, and then we can, use it for analytical purposes to maybe, optimize it based on that, or just to decide that this process should be populated within the whole organization. The last thing I wanted to show you today is this statistics session. Here you can, it works like a pivot in Excel. You have different ways of presenting data. I'm here using a table. You can drag and drop different columns. What I've shown here is comparison between two companies with processes which are there. Here, the similar process is maintenance working groups. And I can see here that in May, the difference, it took more than 2 times more time in this company than in the other, right? So I can compare how much time a different process took with an organization. I can additionally add some other information, users. I can see how users perform on those processes. So here is a place when you can, more to get more insight on more, you could say on a higher level, right? Just to, get the general information about your company performance, about process performance and user performance. Now, I think we can get back to the presentation. And the free trial, I wanted to remind you can sign up for this free trial. And the link is in the chat. I can see that is visible there. So now, of course, just before we go to our Q&A session, I just wanted to ask you, just generally to share with you an information that we are, of course, working on embedding in our solution Power BI, and soon those way of reporting and analyzing the data which was collected will be much more enhanced. But still, what we have now, it offers a really great insight into what happens in the system. Okay, so sign up for a trial. We can talk about in detail about what the tool offers. And now, Q&A session. If you have any questions, please send them. I will just now take a look at this, if there are any questions which appeared. Okay. So this one maybe. So you have a question whether it does work on the other systems. No, for now it is only for Dynamics 365 supply chain, finance supply chain management and Dynamics AX 2012. We are of course thinking about, planning actually, not only thinking about, planning to go into other system, but for now it doesn't work on other. And another question we've got, give me a second, scroll down the list of all this, what happens in the chat. Okay, do we have access to the database of collected data? Yeah, exactly. This is very important. Sorry, I forget to mention it. The data which is being collected by our tool is being stored on a database which belongs to the customer, to you actually, right? It won't be, X Plus's owned by X Plus. You will have full access to it. It will be yours. You may be also able to access the data with some different tool. For example, you may be able to connect your Power BI to it and prepare the reports you wish you have, which are not offered by the tool, right? So yes, so data which would be collected, it would belong to you. Okay, let me now quickly take a look whether there are any more questions. There's some, not everything arrives on time, but I do not see any more. So if there are no more questions, guys, then no, we don't have any more. Okay, so guys, if there are no more questions, I think we can end our session now. Thank you very much for participating. Sign up for the free trial if you are interested. And see you soon in another session. So have a nice day. Bye.